President Trump gave a very long interview with NBC's Meet the Press, and the issue of the 14th Amendment came up. The 14th Amendment says this: all persons born or naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof are citizens of the United States and of the state wherein they reside. Close quote. Now, people on the left interpret that as saying, if you are born on American soil, you're automatically a citizen. That's not what the amendment says at all. It was adopted in 1868 to guarantee that formerly enslaved persons and their descendants would not be denied citizenship. It superseded the Dred Scott decision, which denied citizenship to slaves. Senator Jacob Howard, Republican from Michigan, said the amendment was not written to give citizenship, quote, to persons born in the United States who are foreigners or aliens, end of quote. He said, quote, this amendment which I have offered is simply a declaration of what I regard as the law of the land already, that every person born within the limits of the United States and subject to their jurisdictions is, by virtue of natural law and national law, a citizen of the United States. This will not, of course, include persons born in the United States, he said, who are foreigners, aliens, who belong to the families of ambassadors or foreign ministers accredited to the government of the United States, but will include every other class of persons, close quote. So he specifically said it does not include people who are born here of parents who are here illegally. Yet that's exactly what Kirsten Welker suggested when Trump said he wanted to end birthright citizenship, number 41.
Let me ask you about some of your other promises on this topic. You've promised to end birthright citizenship on day one. Is that still your plan?
Yeah, absolutely.
The 14th Amendment, though, says that, quote, all persons born in the United States are citizens. Can you get around the 14th Amendment with an executive action?
We're going to have to get a change. We'll maybe have to go back to the people, but we have to end it. We're the only country that has it.
Through an executive action?
You know, we're the only country that has it. Do you know, if somebody sets a foot, just a foot, 1 foot, you don't need to, on our land, congratulations, you are now a citizen of the United States of America. Yes, we're going to end that because it's ridiculous.
Through executive action?
Well, if we can, through executive action. I was going to do it through executive action, but then we had to fix COVID first, to be honest with you. We have to end it.
She misstated what the amendment said. She said, quote, the 14th Amendment, though, says, quote, all persons born in the United States are citizens, end of quote. That's what she said. Again, the 14th Amendment actually says, quote, all persons born or naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof, which is very important, are citizens of the United States and of the state wherein they reside, close quote. She left out subject to the jurisdiction thereof. That's an important distinction. You know who else denounced birthright citizenship? Harry Reid, number 16.
If you break our laws by entering this country without permission and give birth to a child, we reward that child with U.S. citizenship and guarantee of full access to all public and social services this society provides. And that's a lot of services. Is it any wonder that 2/3 of the babies born at taxpayer expense at county-run hospitals in Los Angeles are born to illegal alien mothers?
So Harry Reid apparently was wrong. I guess so. Now, Kirsten Welker asked Trump, would he concede the 2020 election just for the sake of unifying the country? Number 15.
And finally, I asked the president-elect about this extraordinary moment in time. He is taking office against the backdrop of a country that is so sharply divided, and when he has yet to concede the 2020 election, which he lost. Sir, I don't have to tell you this because you've talked about it. It comes at a time when the country is deeply divided, and now you're going to be leading this country for the next 4 years. For the sake of unifying this country, will you concede the 2020 election and turn the page on that chapter?
No. No, why would I do that? But let me just tell you, when
won't
you
ever
say the country is deeply divided, I'm not the president. Joe Biden's the president.
But you're going to be the president.
No, no. I'm not the president. So when you say it's deeply divided, I agree. But Biden's the president, I'm not. And he has been a divider. And you know where he divided it more than anything else, and it probably backfired on him, I think definitely, is weaponization. When he weaponized the Justice Department and he went after his political opponent, me. He went after his political opponent violently because he knew he couldn't beat him. And I think it really was a bad thing. And it really divided our country.
Sir, Democrats have control of the White House now. They didn't in 2020. If they are going around stealing elections, why
when you
didn't
say
they do it
Democrats
this
have
time?
control now?
Of the White House.
Yeah.
So why didn't they steal this election?
Too big to
Since
rig.
they have more power now.
Because I think it was too big to rig.
Too big. Too big to rig. 888-971-SAGE. More from Donald Trump's Meet the Press interview. I'm Larry Elder. Trump gave a very extensive interview to Kirsten Welker, and she asked, for the sake of unifying the country, will you say that 2020 wasn't stolen, that you really lost 2020? He said no. Now notice nobody asked people like James Clyburn to tone down his rhetoric for the sake of unifying the country. Listen to this, number 5.
That former President Obama said. He made, I believe, his first comments since the election. He said this last night. I want you to take a listen.
Talk of bridging our differences when the country and the world seemed so bitterly divided felt like an academic exercise. It felt far-fetched, even naive, especially since, as far as they were concerned, the election proved that democracy is pretty far down on people's priority list.
So essentially, too much focus on the concept of democracy and democracy being at risk as part of the election message. Well, it certainly was a message that President Biden, when he was running, was pushing. And then at the end of Kamala Harris's campaign, hers as well. What do you make of the former president's comments?
Well, I think they ring true. Not that they should be true, but they have demonstrated that that is the case. You know me very well, and you know that I spent a lot of time studying history. Mm-hmm. And I've talked about this election, even going in the run-up to the election from a historical standpoint. And I seem to remember, as we were celebrating the 100th anniversary of this country's existence, we had a presidential election in 1876. Yep. And you see what happened to democracy in that election. It led to Jim Crow. I'm the 9th African-American to serve in Congress from South Carolina. The problem is there are 95 years between number 8 and number 9 because democracy was driven so far down on people's lists back in 1876. And there's a danger of that happening again. So though the President Obama is correct in his assessment, the question is that a good place for the country to be?
My goodness. We had an election in 1876. It led to Jim Crow. The question is, are we going there now? What are you talking about? Donald Trump wants to take us back to Jim Crow? Based on what? Based on what? Under Trump, best economy ever for black people? Under Trump, most secure border, the people most hurt by illegal aliens are black and brown people living in the inner city with high school or less education because most of the illegal aliens have little education and they compete against them for jobs. And the presence of illegal alien labor puts downward pressure to the tune of almost $1,800 a year on the wages of black and brown people living in the inner city. Jim Crow, he supports school choice, something that black and brown parents living in the inner city support, even though the Democrats do not, even as the party elites, whether it's Joe Biden or Barack Obama or Kamala Harris, have their own kids in private school. He did the First Step Act, Donald Trump, that allowed, by the time he ended his first term, some 4,000 or 5,000 mostly men, mostly black men, to have their prison sentence reduced, an average of 70 months. These are long sentences for non-violent drug-related offenses. He pardoned Jack Johnson, the first black heavyweight champion, who was convicted of violating the Mann Act. He was accused of transporting white women across state lines for illicit purposes. Ken Burns, a left-wing documentarian, and Sylvester Stallone both went to Barack Obama to get him to pardon Jack Johnson. Barack Obama wouldn't do it. They went to George W. Bush. He wouldn't do it. They went to Trump, and Trump did it. Alice Johnson, a black woman, got a very long sentence for a drug-related nonviolent offense. He commuted her sentence. He put funding on a 10-year basis for historically black colleges. But he's going to bring back Jim Crow, which is what happened in the election of 1876. Nothing's changed since then. When will people like Dana Bash ask him to turn down his rhetoric for the sake of unifying the country? My goodness. Now, let's get back to the interview that Trump gave to Meet the Press. He was asked whether or not he's going to direct Kash Patel to go after his political enemies. Kash Patel is a man that he wants to head up the FBI. Number 21.
No, I mean, he's going to do what he thinks is right.
Do you think that's right? Do you think that's right, sir?
If they think that somebody was dishonest or crooked or a corrupt politician, I think he probably has an obligation to do it. But
are you going to direct him to do it?
No, not at all. Not at all. We have two great people there. We have him and we have Pam. And Pam Bondi has been like a rocket ship. She's very popular and very good and very fair. And Kash Patel is very fair. I'll tell you, I thought Kash may be difficult because he's, a strong conservative voice. And I don't know of anybody that's not singing his praises. The other day I was watching, and Trey Gowdy, who's a moderate person and very smart and very respected in the party, he's Kash's biggest fan. He said, this is the most misunderstood man in politics. He's great. I guess they worked together on the Russia hoax or something. And Trey Gowdy became a fan. Trey Gowdy. Everybody respects him. And, just like him, others also. I don't know of one negative vote. I don't think he's going to have any negative votes.
Is it your expectation, though, that Kash Patel will pursue investigations against your political enemies?
No, I don't think so.
Do you want to see that happen?
If they were crooked, if they did something wrong, if they have broken the law, probably. They went after me, They went after me and I did nothing wrong.
Well, let me ask you this. You said President Biden, quote, that you're going to appoint a real special prosecutor to go after Joe Biden. You said that
Where
during
did I say that?
The campaign.
Where?
You said that on Truth Social, June 12th, 2023. I will appoint a real special prosecutor to go after the most corrupt president in the history of the United States, Joe Biden, and the entire Biden crime family. Are you going to do that? Are you going to go after Joe Biden?
I'm really looking to make our country successful. I'm not looking to go back into the past. I'm looking to make our country successful.
Trump was asked about pardoning himself, number 19.
I asked you last time we sat down for an interview if you were going to pardon yourself. You said no. But now that President Biden has pardoned his son, Hunter, are you reconsidering? Might you pardon yourself?
I didn't do anything wrong. I was given the option. And the lawyers told me, a very specific lawyer, I don't have to go into who, but very high up in the administration said, sir, if you pardon yourself, you're going to look guilty. And you did nothing wrong. Oh, I had that option. I could have saved myself a lot of legal fees. But it turned out that I was right. Look at what's gone on. Everything's being dropped. I still have a Fani Willis, a total hoax. That's a total hoax. It's all being dropped.
And speaking of the Hunter Biden pardon, here's what Senator Jim Langford of Oklahoma said about this, number 35.
I want to ask you about the president pardoning his son Hunter. What's your reaction to this blanket pardon that covers the last 11 years? What does that tell you about what's really been going on with Hunter Biden?
That tells us there's a lot more there is what that actually means, that there's even more out there. Now, the President Biden for months has been saying he's going to honor the judicial process. This is not political. And now suddenly he sounds like President Trump saying that the Department of Justice has a political bias here after months of saying that the President Trump is undermining our judicial system. President Biden steps forward and says, hey, it's unjust, and so I'm picking my son to be able to pardon him, and not just do a pardon for the crimes he's already convicted of. People have already seen now he's done a pardon for everything, no matter what it is, saying when future crimes come out, he's also pardoned for those. We've literally not seen a pardon like this since Gerald Ford pardoned Richard Nixon and set that aside and said no crime's not going to be convicted. Now President Biden is doing that for his son. He's setting a new precedent for how pardons will be done in the future, I'm sure.
Now, the former host of Meet the Press is Chuck Todd. He said that the Hunter Biden pardon has done irreparable damage to the Democratic Party. I'm going to have that for you when we come back, just so you know that it's just not Republicans like Langford and others criticizing the blanket Hunter Biden pardon after Joe Biden said over and over and over again he would not do it. And after Karine Jean-Pierre misstated what the YouGov poll said. 66% said that they opposed it or weren't sure about it. She said 64% approved of the pardon. I don't know what poll she was looking at, but it wasn't the YouGov poll that she cited. Thanks for watching these clips from The Larry Elder Show. If you enjoyed this content, be sure to subscribe to my channel and hit the bell icon so you never miss a moment. More thought-provoking discussions are just a click away, so stay tuned, and we'll see you in the next one.